best, the universe, higher power will always show up for you. Always. And sometimes you're hurt in a really messed up way to protect you from the people that are hurting you so that you can move on from them. Hi everyone, welcome back to No Light Tarot. My name is Hali. So grateful to have you all. So I have been doing these long videos. All of you, well not all of you, but I've gotten such great feedback about them. I will have timestamps in the comment section. I don't know why I can't speak. Timestamps in the comment section. And if you also want to shop tarot, I also have my store in the comment section. I also have merchandise up listed. So thank you for watching. All of you, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe for more. This is tarot from rather hot topics with a tarot perspective. So I'm all about learning, healing, growing. I think the reason why I started this channel really is I had a tarot channel on Instagram, and I decided to start doing like what we can learn from celebrities through tarot. And then I ended up doing so well with that, ended up getting a lot of views. So I started a YouTube channel. 2 years later, almost exactly 2 years later, here we are. So thank you everybody for watching, and everybody who's been here from the beginning. I remember when I have 3,000 subscribers now, which is not that big, but I'm still grateful for it. But what I'm most grateful for was that the support, you know. I always said this, oh my gosh, I've been so emotional today. I've been watching things and I don't know why I'm so emotional today, but and I don't even have my lady friend. I call my monthly my lady friend. But I can look back because I just started a new channel, and I look back when I started this one and I had 9 subscribers, and so many people believed in it and were rooting for me. So thank you. I am beyond grateful. Okay, so let's get into the reading. This video I'm dedicating to post breakups. So 3 big breakups recently that have been the headlines. I'm going to start with Taylor Swift, then Ariana Madix from Vanderpump Rules, and then Harry Styles and Olivia Wilde. So dedicated to post breakups. I think something, you know, and I just maybe that's why I'm emotional, because I before recording this video, I watched Ariana Madix's podcast. She was featured on a podcast called Call Her Daddy, which Hailey Bieber did a while ago too. It was very raw. I have always been a fan of Vanderpump Rules. I didn't watch 2 seasons because I was like, just moved to LA. I didn't want to be in that West Hollywood. I used to live on the east side. If you're from LA, if you've lived in LA, I used to live on the east side. In fact, first, when I moved to LA, I used to work on the west side. So I worked in Santa Monica and Beverly Hills. In fact, I always worked in Beverly Hills throughout, but because I used to teach yoga. But when I first got there, I used to work in Santa Monica and Westwood, and I was just like not Brentwood, not Westwood. And I used to not F with West Side at all. Sound like a rapper. But because they were just very fake. I found it to be very fake people. So I stopped watching Vanderpump Rules. But since the beginning, I've watched Vanderpump Rules, and Ariana, I've always found I could relate to her a lot. I feel like we're very similar. Even though I don't really know her, I just feel like our personalities are very, very similar. So that's why I can relate a lot to the story. And it's just so layered story, and there's so much to learn from it. I have a very similar situation that I've mentioned before, but we'll touch on a bit more. So I always also love to hear stories, guys, so please write in the comment section if you've been in a situation, so forth and so forth. This is really like a healing channel. I love to transmute energy, send, alchemize, you know, because negative things are going to happen to us. It's what we do after, it's how we grow. And I get this energy of, from all three of the people I'm doing readings on, of Phoenix. Phoenix is rising, you know, when things are done to you that are so horrible, but you alchemize that and you make the best of it. And it's such a beautiful, beautiful thing. And it can teach us so much about it. So grateful to be doing this. Okay, so I'm gonna start with Taylor Swift. I've pre-shuffled the cards and I got actually the song Lavender Haze in my head. I did do a video last week where I said that I feel like with this guy, the guy from the 1975, that he is not really her vibe, you know, if that makes any sense. So with the Devil, Eight of Wands, I actually think she's very single right now, very, very single. I think people are just gonna grasp at straws to get anything. In fact, okay, a little personal story. I used to date two famous people. One of them, I remember when we first started dating, and a story came out. I was livid, trying not to swear. I was like, I'm so good at having me swearing, and then yesterday I was like, oh my gosh, I swear a lot. But a story came out of him with a very famous model, and I was like, oh my gosh, I was, you know, I'm not a jealous type, but it was my first time being with somebody that's such in the public scope, and it was, to see that on a tableau is very upsetting, you know. So anytime somebody is single again after a breakup, you're gonna hear rumors about everybody. They can literally be standing next to the person, be in the same room, you know. It's just like, that's just the way it goes. So I believe she's very single, very, very single. And I think, especially with the energy I get with the bottom of the deck being Four of Swords, she's really healing herself. She's really like taking time, and I'm glad, because after a 6-year relationship, you know, people are different, but I could not be even, I mean, I was in my most recent one was in total 2 years, and I just could not see myself for a while, you know, being with anybody else, because it just felt so, I don't know, I just felt like I needed to be with myself to really process everything, let everything go. And I'm glad she's doing that. Everybody's different, you know, but I just think it's beneficial to really sit with yourself, which I find a lot of us have difficulty doing. So with the Devil, Eight of Wands, but here, you can tell she is. with the Devil, Eight of Wands, and Ace of Pentacles, I see very strong energy that she's songwriting, actually. I think she's songwriting. She's like, when she's not performing, has her tour, no, it hasn't ended. When she's not performing, she's writing. I see writing. And like writing hooks, recording hooks, because I think after this, she's gonna go back into the studio, which I think is very powerful, you know, to write from. I don't know if you guys know this, I actually used to write for a very famous blog. I still have a blog if you want to check that out. But there's something so cathartic about just releasing everything that's heavy on your heart, you know. And for me, it's always been writing. Since I was a kid, I've always wrote. That's why I used to write songs, I used to write poetry, just to have that outlet of like, you know, this is how I feel, and that's it. And she's very similar that way. She must have some Mercury in her chart, definitely, because Mercury is the planet of communication and being able to release that. She must have some Mercury in her chart. So with the Hierophant, Six of Swords, and the Moon, strong Mercury, because we all have Mercury to an extent. I have strong Mercury, that's why I'm able to write. But I see that with her, definitely. With the Hierophant, Six of Swords, and the Moon, she's being released. She feels like, wow, this is powerful. This It's very powerful. She feels like finally she has the closure she needs from the relationship with Joe to let it go. Finally. It's just like, you know. And I think writing is helping her do that. But I also feel like there's another factor. Let's find out what that factor is. Okay, so I also feel like he possibly, 10 of Wands, moved back to the UK, like for good. There's been distance between them, and she can, the Empress, 6 of Pentacles, King of Pentacles, focus on her future. Now, I did say the next person she's gonna be with, who is around her, she hasn't been pictured with him yet, she hasn't, none of that, but he is around her. He wants 8 of Pentacles to be with her, and he's going to make that very clear, but he's nobody that we know yet. Okay. Let's move on. I'd love to hear what we have to say. I'm really rooting for her. You know, it's not easy to go through a breakup, so I wish her lots of well wishes. Lots of well wishes. So let's move on to Ariana Madix from Vanderpump Rules. Like I said, she gives me very much Phoenix Rising energy. I get that very strongly. I see so much potential. This story is so dear to me because I feel like I said before, I feel like I can relate a lot to her, being like a ride or die person. For my friends, for my family, like even if people did me wrong, I would still root for them and still be loyal to them, which I had to set serious boundaries, especially during COVID. During COVID, I set like very solid boundaries. How people were gonna treat me, because I just felt like, I don't know, there was very heightened emotions during COVID. And because of those heightened emotions, it's hurting me when people would like judge me or, you know, do certain things to me. You know, when you have time to just sit and be like, wait, how they spoke to me is not okay. You know, when you work a lot and stuff like that, you don't really have time to really process if somebody is worthy of being in your life or not. But when you have nothing to do, like we did in COVID, it really got me like, oh. So I've had my, not as bad as her, but I've had my moment where I had to really set clear boundaries on what I wanted in all the relationships in my life. So I'm excited for her. This is just the beginning of many, many great things to come. I also want to give her grace because I feel like, you know, whether I see a lot of people be like, oh, they weren't having, if you don't know what I'm talking about, catch up, pause this video, catch up on the Vanderpump Rules Sandoval situation, come right back. But people will always say, oh, how it started. I see people saying that online. How it started is how it ends. Yes, but when you are under the web of lies of a narcissistic person, whether they're a narcissist or not, they're so good at lying. They're so good at like entrapping you, roping you into the victim story, the love bombing. Once you can like see what they've done, that's when you can look back and be like, you know what? They got me. This is how they got me. You know how Steve Jobs had that saying, you can connect the dots looking back? In my similar situation to her and Sandoval, Tom Sandoval, I had one specific ex. Very similar story. I wasn't with him for 9 years. I was with him for almost a year. And I remember the first time, because we broke up twice. The second time it was over. But the first time we broke up, I found he was messaging his ex. It was very similar to had broken up with his ex very recently. Victim story, you know, we used to work together, so he would tell me, oh, you know, things are not going well. Like, he would flirt with me and stuff like that and be like, you know, things are not going well. Like, he was planting seeds, and that's what they do in the beginning, they plant seeds. So even though we were like friends, there was always this underlying tone of, well, if there weren't the girlfriend, we would be together, even though we didn't do anything. So I remember when he broke up with her, and he made himself a victim, said that she wanted to get married, he didn't want to get married to her, he didn't believe that she was marriage material, all this kind of stuff, you know. When I see Sandoval, I just see my ex, because it's clear, very, very clear that he's like that. So fast forward, we're in a relationship. We've been in a relationship for about 6-7 months at this point, and there was always like the ghost of his ex, always the ghost of his ex, you know. Even one time he had a picture of her on his wall. And when we first started dating, and I told him, when I had confronted him about it, I was like, you know, take a picture down, please, it hurts my feelings. And he took it down, but I just felt like the fact that I had to say that was upsetting. So it was things like that. All in all, first time we break up, he was like showering or something, and I had his phone on my speaker, on my Bluetooth speaker, and he was in the shower, and he was like, change the song, you can change the song, because his song was done. So I opened up his phone, and I saw a bunch of messages from his ex that they were going to meet up, blah blah blah. Basically, it wasn't anything saying that they were going to be together, but it was very clear that they were still dating, still seeing each other. And he used to refer to me as that person that he referred to his ex when he was with her, you know, when we had met. So I had become the third person, like, you know, that he spoke about, and they had this thing going on, and I was like, whoa, I was looking through this. I kept quiet, I acted like everything was fine, and then, because I'm really good at that, I'm really good at catching people doing things, and I'm like, you know, I'm gonna act like everything's fine until I process this. We went to a yoga class together, and the whole yoga class, I was like, you know what? I was like, you know, let me just think about this. What am I gonna do? Let me think about it. And in the yoga class, I just burst out crying, you know? Just crying in the yoga class, and he must have been like, what the hell's wrong with her? So I wasn't crying loudly, but I had tears coming out my face. I went into the changing room after yoga, and I was like, yeah, I'll meet you later. And I went into the changing room. I looked in the mirror, I was putting on my makeup, and I was like, I'm not going with this guy. I'm not going anywhere. I don't want to be with him anymore. He lied to me. He's been lying to me. I cannot continue this facade. There's the ghost of this person. Clearly something's going on with him. He hasn't told me anything. So I texted him, and I was like, I'm not going to see you. I don't want to see you anymore. You can leave by yourself. I found text messages. He was like, well, you can tell that he had a script in his head, because he quickly replied back, you know, that I forgot what his excuse was, but he said that one of his mutual parents died. And I was like, so that's supposed to make me feel better? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, so after that, I had a no ex rule in all my relationships. I don't date anybody that has an ex in their life, any capacity, unless they haven't spoken to each other for a long time. But a fresh, recent ex, I do not deal with. It's too much for me. But we got back together, and I regret it. That's one of my other regrets. I said last week one of my regrets was being with somebody. This is my other one of regrets. But I think I got back with him the second time, because something really awful happened that one day I'll share. But he did something to me extremely awful, worse than that. And once he did that, I had to cut off all communication completely. So it reminds me a lot. Even when I see the lying, we're like, oh, she did this. He would always blame me. And you know what? The thing is, I'm a very good girlfriend. Very, very good girlfriend. I will ride or die for you. I'll be there for you. I will do everything. And I realized that is a problem. That is a problem. If I'm willing, you know what Ariana says in the finale, I would have done anything for you. And that creates a resentment in them. Like with my ex, I would have done anything for him. And he was still resentful, and he still blamed me, and he still, now, unless our paths are headed down the same direction, I'm not really that interested. I'm not going to devote 100% unless I see the same devotion, because it's not worth it. So I only say that to say that we've all had an ex, I believe, whether it's a woman, a man. We can all relate to being screwed over by one ex who just continually lies, puts you second, gaslights you. Oh my gosh, when I saw that, I was just like, wow, that's exactly, you think you're going crazy, you know? I remember one time, before I had found the text messages, he had a dress, and it was clearly because she was a lot shorter than I am, his ex. And the dress was very short, and it was in his closet. And I was like, why is, I literally said her name. I said, why is her dress in here? And he was like, oh, I still have some of her stuff. And I was like, you still have some of her stuff? You know? Because I thought he hadn't gone over it. Meanwhile, something was still going on with him. You know? So it's just all eye-opening. And I only tell that story because I feel like releasing these stories helps us all heal. And yeah. So when I shuffled the cards, I got the energy of Phoenix, like a phoenix rising. I see that with her, very strong energy. And it's almost, I really feel, and I said this before, this was divine intervention. You know, when you're the kind of person, I just got goosebumps. When you're the kind of person, you do the right thing, you think about others, you're compassionate, you have empathy, you do your best to be a good person, whether you are or not, but you're doing your best. The universe, higher power will always show up for you, always. And sometimes you're hurt in a really messed up way to protect you from the people that are hurting you so that you can move on from them. Yeah, and I think that's what happened with her. So, post-breakup, what I see with the death, 2 of cups, 9 of cups. Okay, so I strongly see already this new person she's with, something's going to flourish from this. Whether it's a friendship, it looks to me like love. But and you know, we have love in different forms, but I mean like life partner love. And I think what's different about him, he's already, you know, and I said this last week, you know, dating in my 20s, I allowed things to happen to me that I will never in my 30s. Now, like I said, I've started dating. I dated somebody, I was seeing somebody last year. But now it's a different kind of, it's not personal. You know, when I was younger, and I see the same energy here too, that's why I'm talking about this. When I was younger, I'd be like, okay, red flag, but I'm different. I'm sweet, you know, they're not gonna do it to me, because other girls, but they use that. These type of people will use the fact that you believe you're different in a good way to gas you up. Not understanding that it's their character, not the other person. Because if you have strong character, if you're a good person in your heart, you're not going to do horrible things to people just to do them, or just because of somebody else. You know, you're still going to take the high road. It might be difficult, but you'll still do the best you can to get to that situation in a classy manner, like she has shown. But if you're constantly blaming somebody else for your actions, it's a huge red flag. One that now that I'm in my 30s, I can see that, you know, if somebody's not, if they don't demonstrate character, if they don't demonstrate class, if they don't demonstrate dignity, that's who they are. It has nothing to do with who, why, or having a reason why somebody else. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's them. They are that way. And I think she's seeing that. And this guy is very different. And I was accurate in that I said I see, well, I wasn't completely accurate. I did say that I see her being tied to New York in some manner. When I first did a reading on her, before any of this came out, I said that something is tied in New York. And I actually think New York would suit her better because she has a personality for New York. I think LA, I lived in LA, I'm from New York, I lived in LA, and I'm telling you, even though I can't see myself living in New York, sometimes I do want to move back because I'm like, oh, I miss New York, and you know, so forth and so forth. But there's a very different energy to New York than LA. LA, there's lots of backstabbing energy, fake backstabbing energy. So with the star, going to be a lot of energy on her, eyes on her for the next, I'd say 2-3 years, because she's in her Queen of Swords bottom of the deck. Queen of Swords energy is very to the point. What do you want? Setting clear boundaries. And after something like this, I get it. She has a strength within her. It kind of reminds me of Britney Spears after what had happened to her. Even though it's not as extreme, but you know when somebody just weighs you down, you know, makes you out to be this monster, does all these things. And then when you free yourself, you don't have time for BS. You don't have it. You don't have the energy or time. And even though I haven't been through a decade-long relationship, a similar one, not that one guy, but another guy, the two narcissistic, well, I've dated 3 narcissistic energy people, but 2 of the longest, this other guy that I was with for a long time, after being through that, there's no room for that in my life anymore. When I see little signs, I'd rather just let it go. You know, when I see if somebody drinks too much, if somebody lies, you know, and we all lie, you know, here and there, but if it's a consistent, you know, defensive mechanism, and no, and it's nothing personal, just I don't have space for it. And I see that same thing with her here. So with 10 of discs, which is pentacles in the traditional deck, 10 of wands came, so I really strongly see her moving to New York. I keep seeing her moving. 6 of wands, Queen of cups, definitely see her moving. And it's almost, I'm telling you, I feel this like strong, I'd be interested to see her bloodline, because I get the sense that, and from her mother's side of the family, she comes from a lineage of very strong woman, warrior-esque woman, and it's passed down in your line. So yeah, that's what I have you about her. I'd love to hear stories if you've ever been in a situation. I think that's how we expose these kind of people, you know, because being quiet, I remember when I was with that ex that I spoke mostly about, and I would tell him like, oh, I'd spoken to my friends about him. He'd be like, what did you say? Because the facade is so important to keep up. And like, he comes from a family that is big on image. Like, his parents were notable in New York and stuff like that. His siblings are like, I don't want to say what they do, but his siblings are very, like, they're connected to politicians and stuff like that. So he comes from a family, and I think these kind of families breed these children, breed these people who are just so self-involved and image-oriented. And, you know, I remember when I met his family actually without him, because they came to see me where I was working at the time, and I had no idea who they were. They were just like basically spying. and they were like, wow, you're so pretty. Like, nothing about my character, nothing about, they were just like, oh my gosh, she's so pretty. And I was like, wow, that's the first thing I thought. And I didn't want to be judgmental, but I just thought to myself, it's so superficial, you know. And I'm grateful that people can say that I'm pretty. I mean, but that's not, what about having grace? What about having character? What about having dignity? What about being a kind person? You know, so if it's just very two-dimensional, it's a concern. So in my healing, my therapy, I saw that a lot of us, we come from families that expect a lot from us, and some people develop narcissism out of it, and others develop like low self-esteem, you know. And I had more of the low self-esteem. That's why I allowed these kind of things to happen. So just putting it out there. Okie dokie. So Harry and Olivia, what's next? I want to do an update because I just got this inkling to do one. You know, I did do one last week when I said that I strongly feel like he's going back to his past. As a fellow Aquarius, I can relate to him so much, you know. But he's not going back to his past. I think some people might mistaken that. He's not going back to his past to go back, you know. Sometimes Aquarius, we just like to dream, you know. People will be like, I remember I had this ex that I like to tell a story about my ex sometimes. And one particular ex that I had, I almost got married to, but I would talk about him and be like, you know, and tell like fond stories, because not just because the relationship's over, it doesn't mean that there needs to be hate, or sometimes you do hate them for a moment, but then I feel like you can still have a fondness for why you even entered a relationship with them, you know, to begin with. So I was speaking about my ex, and one of my friends was like, do you still want to be with him? Why are you talking about them if they are not in your life? And Aquarius, we just have this fondness for the past. It's like melancholy, you know, or nostalgia. So with the High Priestess, Two of Cups, and King of Wands in the traditional deck, it's King of Fire here, I do see him calling in, whether he realizes it or not, a new relationship. I see that someone is in his eye. Queen of Earth, wow, she's powerful. So I have, from day one of doing readings, I've always said I strongly feel like Harry is going to end up with somebody in his management. I always said that. I strongly believe it, always said it, and I think this is her. So I'd love to hear if you guys know anybody that's a woman in his management. She is older. He likes older women as a whole. She is older. I wouldn't say that much older, but I think she's like 5 years older, 10 years older than he is. At the bottom of the deck, the Chariot. There's a sense of, I get this like romantic. He's like, I don't know. You see, I saw a picture of him like jumping on ropes and stuff, and I was like, ooh. Then I'm getting that image again because I forgot about it. But I'm just getting an image of like, oh, he's definitely, that's Aquarius. I know Aquarius like this. Whenever there's like happiness like that, joy, he's met somebody. Definitely met somebody. Yeah. And just like being silly, childlike. I can think of every time I've started a relationship where I really like somebody. That's the only time we're in a relationship. We get this like playful, childlike energy, you know. She could be a Cancer actually. She could have a sun in Cancer or Venus in Cancer. So with King of Water, which is King of Cups in the traditional deck, Ace of Air, and Five of Air, yeah, you see this like joy. King of Cups is emotional, and I see that his emotions are, see how she's like flying free, and she's like, it's making him like giddy and playful and just like ethereal, and it's making him want to go towards her with an offer. Interesting that sometimes when I pull the cards, it's just the energy that shows up. So because I included Olivia, and some of you get really mad if I don't, I want to see particularly the energy between them, and I'll pull a card for that. Okay, so he has iced her out. He's iced Olivia out. But stay tuned, because I did say that she would try through the media to get back at him, and I see that coming. So stay tuned. I love you all, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, and yeah, stay tuned. Take care.